When you're working with enterprise data in Power BI, you might come across a situation where the date dimension table has dates that go well into the future. If you want to limit your users from being able to filter on future dates in your Power BI report, there are a couple of ways to do it. One in the front end of the report, the other in Power Query. In this video, I will show you both. So let's jump into it. So here we are in our sales report. If I click on my slicer, as you can see, we have dates that go well beyond 2023 and into the future. But if I were to select a year, 2026, for example, we have no data because we haven't made sales in the future. What you want to be able to do is limit the dates to where the dates are only up to and including today or yesterday, depending on your refresh. So the first way we can do this is by simply dropping in a filter on all pages field over here on the right. So if we go to our data, we go to our date table dimension. We can drag in our date, and instead of using basic filtering, we can go to relative date. What this will allow us to do is select the number of days, weeks, months, or years. In our case, I will do years, so that we can select the previous number of years worth of data. Now, looking at our data, we have data going back until 2020, until January 2020. So I'm going to simply show items when the value is in the last 4 years. I'm going to exclude today because we only have data going up to the 30th of September, and the time of this recording, it is the 1st of October. Actually, if I include today, let me show you what will happen. I've included today. We can go down to 2023. Now, as you can see, the other years have all disappeared. But I can scroll down to October, where we have no data, which is why I've excluded today, apply the filter, and now we only have months going down up until September. So that's way number one. The second way is in Power Query. So let me clear this. By the way, when you're using a filter like this, if you want to hide it from your user, what you can do is simply click on Hide Filter, and you can also lock it. But if you hide the filter, when you publish it to a workspace, this filter won't appear in that report, at least to your user, to your viewer. But there's a better way, there's another way to do that, and I think it's a bit more elegant because it works in Power Query. All right, so I've just remade the filter again the last 4 years. If I go to my date table, we still have dates going up until the 31st of December 2029. We're still loading in all this data. So if I remove this, clear this, and now let's go into Power Query, we can stop this data from being loaded into our model in the first place. Let's do that. So now we're in Power Query. Let's go to our date table. And what we want to do is stop this from happening. The first thing we need to do is create a new query that returns today's date. So let's go to new source and blank query. And for this, we're going to use date time equals local now. And there we have today's date, but it's also bringing in the time, as you can see. So what I'm going to do is go up here and bring in date only. I'm going to rename the query to today. Next thing we want to do is come to our date table and create another step. This step will simply filter this date column to where the date is before the result, in today. So how do we do that? Let's go to Advanced Editor to do this and write this query ourselves. The first thing we want to do is create a new line. I'm just going to expand this a bit more just so you can see all of the query that's been created from our applied steps. But all we're doing really are simple things such as creating or extracting the month, for example, and reordering the columns. We can ignore these steps for now let's create a new one. So we'll do comma, and let's call it filtered dates. Equals, and now what I want to do here is select the rows that I want to filter on. So let's use table.selected rows. Table.select rows. And what we want to do is reference the date table as it was in the previous step, which will be our sorted rows step over here. So let's just copy and paste that in. And what we're going to say is where each date, or each, capitalize that, date is less than today. And today is going to reference this query, or at least the result from that query. And finally, we want to replace sorted rows. So I'm going to copy that down here. If we select done, check this out. Now we have dates that are only loaded up to and including yesterday. So let's click close and apply. And once that's been loaded in, we can now go to our table view and have a look here. We only have dates up to including the 31st of August, which is yesterday. And if we go to our report view, as you can see, I don't have the filter on all pages like I did before over here on the right. So we're not using that. And yet our slicer only has dates up to and including yesterday. So that is a second way of limiting or removing the future dates from the front end of your report. Please leave a thumbs up if you found this useful and subscribe to learn more.